I've got a problem. I think you could call it an addiction, and I just can't get enough at the moment. I think I need some help. All jokes aside, folks, nothing serious to report here. It's not one of those videos. I am absolutely loving 3D printing at the moment. And yes, I know, for the second week running, a 3D printing video, and I'm sorry, but I can't help myself. And I've been working on a project which I've now finished, and I'm super pleased with, and I wanted to share with you here today. You'll know what that is from the thumbnail. It's a Gameboy Kiosk, and we'll get into that in just a minute. Before I do though, I wanted to show you some of the things that I've been printing already for my gaming space that are enhancing the way I display my games, show off some of my hardware, and just basically add some fun flourishes to the games room. So let me show you those first, and then we're going to get into the Gameboy Kiosk. So first of all, category number one is game display cases. So I have printed an N64 display case, which I love. I love my N64, and the games that I have put on there are some of my favorites from back in the day. Nothing too out there, as you'll see, but games I absolutely love. I did a similar display case for my NES games, which was really cool as well. Very simple, that sort of deep grey that you associate with the NES. Really love that. And then perhaps a little less keen on, but the Super Nintendo display that I also printed is pretty cool. I'm not quite sure why the designer chose to have it lean like it does. Moving on from game displays, then I have got my Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller display stand. That was another really simple print that I really like, and I think adds a nice detail to the games room. I've printed a few accessories off. So I printed off a mouse for the Switch 2, which I used on stream the other week for Civilization 7, and it worked really well. It was maybe a little bit small for my hand, but it did the job. And then in terms of sort of like the flourishes to the room, we've got the book nook, which you saw me make on a previous video of Kratos, which is sitting proudly on my Billy bookcase. And I also printed this small little detail to enhance the PS5, which was this little Spider-Man logo, which sits neatly in the front of that monolith of a console. But then I was looking at, well, what else can I do to use my 3D printer in creative ways for my game space? And I found this incredible Gameboy Kiosk. Now, I know how sought after proper Gameboy Kiosks are, and I know this is not that. But when I saw it, I thought that feels like a project that is a bit bigger, a bit beefier than what I've done before. It certainly was a longer print. Just the main body of this thing was like 20 hours of printing, and I think in total the rest of it then added another 7 or 8 hours of printing time, but it was absolutely worth it. Now, what's beautiful about this print, as I go on to show you how I made it, is that it's all printed, no painting, no special work has been done to it, no sanding, no filling. I literally printed this as is and glued it. All I needed was super glue to bring this thing together, and I think it's absolutely superb. So I'm not going to talk over this one again. I'm going to show you a little montage of how I brought this Gameboy Kiosk together, and then we'll come back at the end and we'll talk about the finished article. So let's hop on over to Jay of the Past and see how this thing came together. So there you have it. What did you think of the kiosk? Now, the keen-eyed amongst you will notice the thumbnail doesn't match the final product. I did do one small addition off camera, which I forgot to add into the main recording. I'd already kind of edited it and brought it all together before I had done that final piece. But I found this on a makerspace, and it was the perfect addition just to add that little extra flourish to the console. So I printed off the little slogan there, now you're playing with portable power, which would have been on the previous, the kiosks of old. And I've attached it now, so I'll sort of show you a final picture of what that looks like, but apologies that wasn't in the kind of beauty shots as I panned around the final kiosk earlier on. In terms of the build itself, you'll have seen, I think I spent about £25 in total on filament that got used on the machine. I used an entire roll of that light grey, very little of the dark grey, the red or the blue, so although I had to buy those reels specially for the job, I'll get many more prints out of those. And then just again, a very little bit of black and white. So I reckon in total, probably £25-ish in filament if you wanted to do the same thing. Of course, you've got the cost of the printer, which is a separate additional cost, but I already have that now and I've made that investment. So I guess I don't really count that as part of it. The LED strip lights were some cheap ones that I've had for a long time, sat in a drawer that I have yet to find a proper use for. So although I've ended up cutting an entire reel away from the plug connector, I can always solder those onto another connector in the future and still reuse them. So there you go, that is my Gameboy Kiosk. I'm really pleased with it. I don't know where it will ultimately live in my office. It's currently sat on the wall by my desk, which is quite nice. It's not overly playable where it is. I may have a move around in here again at some point soon, just to try and rejig where the arcade machines are, and perhaps at that point I'll also consider moving the kiosk. But overall, really thrilled with it. It's the biggest print that I've done. If you like it, then let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. What would you do differently? You could argue that maybe some different colour schemes would be nice and could look quite cool. And if anyone's interested in getting one of these printed and doesn't have access to a 3D printer, I'm not technically supposed to sell these things. I'm not licensed to do so. But for the odd person, I think it could be done if you're interested, and that's not what we're here for. So I'm just always looking at ways that I can use my new 3D printing capabilities and my new workshop to enhance my games room, and I think this is a perfect option, perfect addition to do that. Hope you liked it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for stopping by and checking this video out, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.